right, guys, so today we're going to start the teardown on the FJ. We're getting prepared for the new paint job that's going on it. And so right now we have the glass gentleman here. He's going to remove the front windshield. He's going to remove the rear quarter window glass. It's something that we just don't have the tools for, so it's just always safer to let a professional come out and do that for us. So we're probably going to replace the front windshield since it's got a few little nicks in it, little chip here and there. Those are still readily available, so we're going to go ahead and order a new windshield for it. I've got my little tape line out, and so what I'm going to do today is I'm going to try to identify how I'm going to paint the front bumper. So we are going to the TRD livery, the Baja 1000 scheme. It's a really cool paint job. Really excited about this color. It seems to be a combination of all the Trail Edition TRD colors. So the gray, the white, the cement gray from the 2013 Trail Edition, the red from the 2012 Trail Edition, and then we're just gonna go with the black that we paint pretty much all of our JDM cars, because that black is super black. Those are the four colors that are going to make up this livery. Since we've got a TJM bumper on it, there's a kind of a weird line on this bumper that's going to be a real tricky bumper to paint. Oddly enough, Toyota actually never painted up an FJ Cruiser in the Baja 1000 scheme. This will be the first FJ Cruiser in that scheme, so we're kind of anxious to see what it's going to look like. Since we've removed the factory bumper and we installed this TJM bumper, we're trying to identify where to paint this bumper. Now, the reason why I want to get rid of the black is because if you look at the 4Runner that was already done up in this livery, the entire front bumper assembly is red. And since this is a combination of mostly red and black, I don't want to deprive this truck of the red that it's going to need. And so that's why I'm painting the front bumper and I'm adding some red to it. But if you look right here, there's this kind of line that's kind of awkward. And so I'm going to try to identify where I'm going to do the paint line on this. So if this is going to be the line, and I'm going to follow this line up, I'm likely going to turn the angle up and do something along these lines. This will be red and this will stay black, but you could see this little triangular line right here that kind of creates a little bit of a challenge on the paint line stopping. So I don't want this entire bumper red because I think it'll be too much red, but I'm kind of thinking that this will serve as a guard. This will all be painted red. This will all be painted red, but the actual push bumper itself, the brush guard protector, I'm going to leave black. So that's kind of the plan I'm going with. What we're going to do next is I'm going to start lining out the actual livery graphic, and that's going to take a lot of time. So if you guys want to just watch me screw this up, stand by. Hopefully I don't screw it up. Windshield has been removed, the quarter glass has been removed. Conveniently, the front cowl, the windshield guy had to actually remove the cowling and all the wind surround cover, which ironically is something that Toyota had to do a recall on because those were flying off on the freeway back when these FJs first came out. And if I remember correctly, it was 2010, 2011, 2012 models were getting rattles and wind noise. And so that upper cowling that serves as the top part of the perimeter of the windshield was having to be replaced. So anyway, that's been removed. And now what we're going to do, I'm going to just kind of do some lining. Come take a look at this. I've got it pulled up on my laptop here. You can see this is the livery we're going with. They never did it to the FJ, and so we figured, yeah, let's do something different. Narrower wheelbase, much smaller wheelbase, and it's a shorter rig. So I'm going to have to try to identify where the striping is going to start in relation to this fitting on an FJ. So I'm going to kind of line that up now, just to kind of get an idea. Now I'm not a liner, I'm not a striper. I've done it before. What takes me probably 2 days to do, a graphics guy or a liner can come in and do in a couple hours. So what I'm going to do is try to put some stripes on the car and kind of get a general idea on where the lines are going to go, and then we're going to have a striper come in and kind of line it all out. In the next couple days, we're going to start the disassembly of this thing, and that'll be fun to see because we were originally going to do a wrap. Turns out that the liveries that were installed by Toyota on the Tundra and on the Tacoma and on the 4Runner were actually wraps. I'm not a big fan of how wraps lay. Having a paint shop, it just makes sense. Let's just paint it and do it right. That's why we're going in that direction. And of course, mind you, we did a lot of work on these Bushwhacker flares. We customized these flares. We enlarged them to accommodate the long travel suspension. So we had to do some paint work on it anyway, and we already smoothed out the cladding to accommodate. Originally, we smoothed that cladding out because we wanted to apply some form of wrap to it. And of course, the wrap wouldn't apply real well to a textured finish, so we smooth those out. So it just kind of makes sense that we paint it and make it right. So this is going to be our tribute vehicle. It's going to be the vehicle that's going to really promote the Buddy Windows system. We want it to stand out, so it just makes sense to do it right. And I like paint. I like paint better than stickers. So I'm going to go ahead and start lining this thing up. Stand by. I'm going to play around with this tape and see exactly how this is going to lay out. So. Okay guys, today is teardown day for the FJ Cruiser. As I mentioned previously, this is an important day. We are going to tear the entire thing apart. As you can see, we've done a lot of that already. The big question is, we've got calls out to a few of our graphic guys. We don't want to wait and be delayed in getting this project done because we haven't heard back from any of our guys that do all our pin line striping. We've decided if we don't hear back from one of our graphics guys by tomorrow, say end of day tomorrow, then we're just going to go ahead and do the entire FJ in red, and I'll probably end up having the rest of the graphic done in a vinyl wrap. And it just makes sense to do the entire truck in a base in the red we want, simply because it'll have all the jams that'll match and whatnot. Yeah, big day. Really important day. As you can see, there's a lot of work involved. When you start doing teardowns on cars like this, especially Japanese cars, there's little clips that are going to likely break. So essentially what we're doing is, since there's so many little clips for the fender liners, for the A-pillar liners, for the B-pillar liners, I mean, there's so many liners on this truck and so many of those clips break. It's something that anybody doing this in the future, just be mindful that try not to save them, because the amount of work that's involved in trying to save these brittle plastic pieces will drive you crazy. They're not very expensive. They're all still readily available from Toyota. So we're ordering all of those clips and things just to have on standby. It just takes a little bit of the stress away. In doing a project like this, it's also being mindful of where all the bolts go, because there's so many. And what we did is we grabbed a bunch of Ziploc baggies and we're just noting where everything came from. You know, we have an aftermarket roof rack. We have an aftermarket bumper. We have lots of aftermarket parts, and of course those bolts aren't factory OEM bolts, so it just makes it a lot easier to note where everything is going and placing everything in Ziploc baggies, so you don't run into that issue where, okay, where does this go? You know, being that this is an East Coast vehicle, it came to the West Coast, you know, just this year, there was a lot of calcium built up. You know, when we installed the supercharger, we identified all sorts of parts in the engine bay that had a lot of calcium buildup, and we simple greened a lot of that off. There's no real rust to speak of. The entire radiator support panels are really immaculate on this FJ. I mean, your typical little areas that are going to be exposed mostly to the elements, that you'll see some surface rust here and there. You'll also notice that on this door latch, you could see some calcium built up here. So we're going to remove all these pieces, right? We're going to go ahead and mask off all the VIN tags when we do this color change. You will take these and we'll sandblast these, and we'll probably clear them just to make them look clean and nice and neat again. These are the A-pillars. Like I said, we're going to have to remove the inside panel. On the inside panel, you'll see that there is actually a retaining bolt right here. That retaining bolt just needs to be unbolted, and then there's a series of clips in here, and these clips are going to be the clips that likely break, and of course we'll replace all that. So I hope you enjoy watching this thing get disassembled. It is kind of fun. It's like taking apart a model and putting it back together. Enjoy this. This is fun. Stay tuned. A lot more to follow. It should be fun seeing this thing get scuffed and painted.
All right, so as you can see behind me, the FJ is all torn down. The majority of the parts are off. George is finishing taking off all the final emblems and stuff before we move the truck over to the prep side. Have this thing looking like a buggy right now. We're gonna make sure we don't lose any of the hardware whatever is rusted through, we're gonna go ahead and replace new from Toyota, and stick along for the ride.